So more or less what we were discussing was the XSLT, which is the XML language only to perform transformations using XML as the input, and then transforms the data into whatever format is being required, and doing the inbuilt transformations with the help of functions that the XSLT provides, using the XSLT functions and so on. So just like consuming the XML data and then transforming it to something else, whichever is the required format. Sometimes Workday does not allow so many transformations, because in Workday, if we talk about transformations, we are limited to calculated fields. But in here, we are exposing the whole lot of XML XSLT world, wherein whatever function is accessible in the XSLT, we would be able to apply transformations using that. So it uses the same concept. The XML, this XSLT is called as style sheet. So this is where your whole of the XML will be bounded into this style sheet tag, and everything will be written inside it, the logic to get your consume your data. And then it will have a version which is XSLT 2.0. Right now 3.0 is also available, but that is mostly used in the studios. Then you have some default preferences, and then you have your namespaces getting started here. So if I just open the so the namespace which is mentioned in your XSLT, that shares the same namespace, because whenever you are creating the XSLT, you'll have to mention that what namespace data you are consuming in your XSLT. So this would be the same namespace that is output in your XML source record, XML source file. So we'll just copy the XSLT from there itself. Same namespace we are going to use. And then there are some default namespaces from W3org and the school, because we'll be using a lot of functions from these. So as you see, the XML and XSL, which is coming from your W3org transform. So you'll see we'll be using a lot of functions on XSL. So you'll see XSL style sheet. So XSL style sheet is an element, a function from XSL namespace. You'll see a lot of functions: XSL template, XSL variable, XSL for each. So we are appending every function that we are using with the prefixing with XSL, because this is how it denotes that from where it is coming, so that we can differentiate if somewhere it is mentioned as WD and then the entry name. So it will differentiate that what is coming from WD and what is coming from XSL. So that many namespaces we have on report, it helps us identify the unique field values. So we are converting our XML, default XML data, to a CSV file using this XSLT. And that's why we have mentioned an XSL output element with the method is equals to text, so that our output file will be a text file. We are declaring a variable. So this is how you declare a variable in the XSLT. You do the XSL function and then variable, you do a select, and then you input the value in your variable, what you want to use, and then you define the name of your variable and you give it whatever you want to name it. Then this is your template function. So this matches, here we are matching this template match is like where you want your cursor to be. We want our cursor to be applied at our, so whenever you see this /, this means the root directory. And the root directory of our XML is, I just quickly open, where is my XML. Not be exact, but whatever it is, it will work for us. So here is your data. Suppose we are applying the XML here. So the root directory will be your WD report data. So we want our cursor to be on the WD report data. That's why we are matching the template to the /. So // means the root directory. So here we are matching the root template by doing this. And then we are applying the templates. So apply templates means that we want now the cursor to be into WD report data. So what this does is apply template. You declare a template. Apply template means you're declaring a template with a particular XPath, wherein when you do the template match and then give the same XPath, that means whatever you have applied in the template match here, now you are using it So template is like a function that you have declared, use it within an X path, and whenever you are going to use it, the processor would understand that you want your cursor to be in the whatever match you have provided, whatever the X path you have provided. Up until there, your X path will be defined, and your cursor would understand then where it want to be. So here you have defined the XSL apply template with the Workday report data, and then you have closed the template. And here now inside this template, because now every processing of your record which is there in your XML will be inside this template, because now we have asked our cursor to match with the WD report data. So now our cursor would be inside the WD report data, and now I'll be processing everything inside this template. That's why my template is getting closed here. Then since it is my CSV file, in my CSV file, I have to define headers. So I'm defining my headers here with the function XSL text. So XSL text getting opened here, closed here. And then inside the XSL text, I'm defining my headers for the CSV file, whatever I want. So I have employee ID, I have department ID, I have email and so on. And then between these, I have defined the separator. So let's say I want my file to be pipe delimited. That's why I have my columns, my headers separated with a pipe. So employee ID, pipe, department, pipe. So in the text file itself, I have defined my headers like this with a pipe separation. So this has defined my headers. Now, the use of the variable which we have here, the line feed variable that we have used, it will help us the cursor to go to the next line. So we have declared the function here, and now we are just using the function. So when you declare the function with a name, and when you want to use the function, you just append dollar in front of the function. That's where the processor would understand that since it's a dollar, it's kind of a variable. So you do XSL. So wherever you will need to define a XPath or select a value, then you choose this function XSL value of select, and then in the value of select, I am giving a variable. This function also accepts the XPath, just like in the below. If you see, we are giving the XPath. So either you give the XPath so that the cursor will go to that particular XPath, or you give the variables like this with a dollar prefix so that you understand it is a variable, and then it will go and find its value wherever this value is declared. So we are after defining the headers, because we want our cursor to come to the next line, so the CSV file can be generated. So immediately after the defining the headers, I'm calling my line feed variable, which will apply me the next line. And then after that, I want now to process each and every row which is there in my XML file. And as you see here in our XML file, our number of workers are getting repeated as per the WD report entry. So WD report entry, WD report entry. So once I'm inside my report data, I need to loop on this WD entry. That means these many employees are there in my output, and I have to process each employee's every data which is inside. So how will I do that? I have entered the line feed. Now my line has been into the next, my line has come to the next line. Cursor is in the next line. Now I want to write the data for the first employee. So to repeat this cursor for each and every line, how do? We use a for each function. So how do you use XSL for each? This is the syntax for it. And then in the for each, we are providing the, again, select. We are providing a XPath that on what XPath it has to do the repetitions. So it has to do the repetition. So usually XPath is complete. XPath we don't mention like from the midway. So if I just tell you that I have to come to the WD report entry, my cursor has to come to WD report entry. So the normal way is that it would go from top WD report data, then it would go to the WD entry. But in here in the for each loop, if you see, we have just defined WD report entry and not WD report data / WD report entry. Why? Because if you see, there is a template getting opened and closed, and the for loop is inside my template. So that means I have already asked, that is the benefit of using the template. So I have asked my template match here to already match it until here. So I am already being matched. My cursor is already inside WD report data. So that's why it is only, I just need to enter or present the path, which is bare minimum. So the bare minimum is right after the WD report data getting ended, my WD report entry is getting started. So that's why, had I not be using a template function, Then I would have in the for each, I would have to give the complete XPath, which would be WD report intra / WD report entry. So the for each is helping me perform the repetitions on the WD report entry. That many report entries are there. That means that many employees are there in my output file. So I'm repeating the WD report entry, and every element or every attribute of the worker which I'm using in here is all defined inside this loop, because my cursor will go and enter inside this loop, then start processing each and every data here, here, here. And then when my last data is finished, it will go and again call the line feed function, which will again create a line break and go me to the next line for the next worker. Then again the loop will go here, normal looping concept. So it will keep looping until it finds the last WD report entry. So everything here, the declaration of my variables, declaration of my elements are all inside this report entry loop. Now I'll start processing my data. So XSL, same value of select function I'm using. Here I want to define what value I want. So I want the value of my employee ID field, because my first header is employee ID. So I want the first value to be my employee ID, which will be written below the employee ID field. So again, WD employee ID. So if you go here in the XPath, if I want to write down the complete XPath, then what would be the XPath for the employee ID? It would actually be WD report data, then WD report entry, and then inside the WD report entry, WD employee ID. But in here, if you would see that I'm only giving value of select WD employee ID and not the above two. Why? Because this thing template match has already done my job by matching the template up until report data. Then the rest of the thing was did by my for loop, because I'm already looping in my for loop until WD report entry. So my cursor knows I'm getting repeated on WD report entry. So my cursor is already inside WD report entry. So now if I just give WD employee ID, so it's like the same. If you are on a street already, then if you just need to find the house number, you would just go and find the house number. But you are, if not on the right, it's street itself. And I'll tell you, okay, you just need to go to house number 4324. Then you would ask me, right, what street I want to be. So if it is like you are entering and this is like entering an area, then this is like entering a street, and this is like finding the actual house numbers. So if you already know this, then you don't need this while you are going on the street. So now you're already in the street, then these are just the house numbers. So I have given the XPath until here, WD report entry, WD report employee ID data. And then this will process my employee ID data for first employee. And then since my file is pipe delimited, I'm going to insert a pipe after my first employee's first header, which is employee ID. So this is how I'm using the XSL text function. And in the text function's value, I'm passing a pipe here. And then after the pipe, I'll process the second element, which is my department. So WD department, then again separator pipe. I'll use the separator in each of after each and every value, unless I am at the very last value, because after that I don't want the delimiter, because I just want the line break after that, because the last column I have reached. So until higher date, I'll use this, and after higher date, because this is my last field. So after last field, I don't want any delimiter. I just want my line break. So I have called my line break here, so that it will go to the now. After processing first employee, it will go to the next line. Again, every employee will be executed and all. So this is how your XSLT works, and how you attach your XSLT to your EIB is. So EIB uses your native XSLT. So native XSLT, when we learn the core connector worker, you will understand about the document transformation. And the document transformation is little more advanced, which is being used in the core connector. Advanced in the sense that it uses some more inbuilt functions, which are quite handy. So that's why those functions are only available in the document transformation and not here in the native XSLT. So we use native XSLT with the EIBs, and then we use the document transformation for the core connectors. So I'll just go with my insys. Bhargav is not going to join. So right now we are at the custom report transformation. So we will just change it. So we will go to our custom report interface, and then we go to the edit. We're going to change our transformation first. So I'll go to transform section. I'll change it from custom report transformation to custom transformation, wherein I would need to attach my accessibility here. Now, the accessibility attachment is not direct, and there is a subtask associated with it. It's like kind of a placeholder that you have. So how do you create the placeholder via task? It's just like a task which is there to create your accessibility placeholder, which is called as create accessibility attachment transformation. So you give some name to it. Maybe you can give the same name as your integration, and then you go to your file, the locally that file that you have prepared. You will just apply the file here. So now I have created the placeholder. Now I'll go here and call my placeholder. Spelling. This is my placeholder which I have called. If you just open it from here, you will be at the same place where you were attaching the accessibility. And let's say you now want to enhance your accessibility because new fields have been added in the custom report, and now those fields need to be catered into the accessibility as well. So you would come here, and then you can modify. So every time accessibility has to be updated locally. Workday does not allow the editing of accessibilities inside the tenant. So you have to work on the accessibility outside of your tenant, local computer. You update it, whatever you want to do, and then go to this. You can come to the EIB as well from it. So just EIB allow you to open this definition. You then after opening, you go here, you edit, and then you delete maybe it's a good practice to take the backup of the last accessibility which was used, and then anyways, before deleting, you can just click on it, so it will be automatically downloaded to your local system. Let's say you were working on this as a change, and previously you were not the one who originally created this integration. So the good option would be, before removing it, just have these sample downloaded, and then anyways, you'll have to download the original because you will be making edits in here only. So download it, make your edits, whatever you want to do once your new file is ready, but always take a backup and make the changes in the copied one, and then keep the backup as it is, delete this one, and then upload a new file from your system. And then it will automatically be called here, because this is an object which is being referenced here. If you make changes here, it will automatically be called here. So I'll keep my file name as same as CSV. Rest everything will remain same. So sequence generator is already in place, we discussed about. So I'll just click OK. So again, the same accessibility concept would be there. No matter what fields are coming from your custom report. Let's say 10 fields are coming from your custom report, but in the accessibility, you are only processing in your accessibility only 5 fields. So only 5 fields will be coming in your final output file. So you have to consume each and every field if that is the requirement. And let's say you only want to send 10 fields out of 20 fields in your custom report, then you can control it from the accessibility. Don't include the rest of the fields which you don't want. So now my integration is accessibility is uploaded. I'll just go and run my integration, launch. Keep the default file name. Is my output file. I'll download it. So I have generated my output file from my custom XSLT and into CSV file. So a CSV file will look like this, because somebody will process this CSV file as a text file, and then in the system they will apply the pipe as the delimiter transformation so that they can process the rows. But if you want to look it in an Excel format, Excel format, then you'll have to do text to columns. So you can go to your data, do the text to columns. So this is for your manual viewing. But if you are just sending it, your system demands CSV, then this would be the file which you would be building. Now data is segregated. So you got an XML from Workday, and then you use an XSLT to convert it to a CSV file. This is called as native XSLT that we create, normal XML XSLT concepts. Integration business process, although there is no such term as integration business processes, but did we discuss anything on the business processes side?
Not integration business process.
Okay.
I don't know what
So
it is.
integration business process is actually nothing's as a separate term or something, but we only use the concept of business processes which is there in Workday. So it helps in a couple of ways. First way it helps us is to make the integration real time. So you know that every other changes which happens in Workday, it happens via the business processes. One or the other business process gets executed, which kind of insert, update, or delete data for Workday. So that is the most real-time thing that we have. And by using the business process, we can know that when was the change happened, because the business process will be the first thing that will be triggered when the change is happening. So to make the integrations real time, we use the business processes in a way. So let's say you have a higher business process, and some system kind of demands real-time data. Real-time data, that means as and when the higher business process is initiated in Workday and it is completed, some system wants the immediate data to be, they don't want to even wait for 24 hours or 6 hours. They just want the data as and when a hire is completed in Workday. We are excluding the in progress part for now, because it's of no use to them if you are sending the in progress transactions on a real-time basis. The real-time transactions would only make sense once they are completed in Workday itself. So let's say you hire BP and you have a report running in the background, which is kind of getting the data of the recently hired workers. So in that case, you would be using your hire business process to trigger an integration. The integration could be a studio, that integration could be a report plus EIB combination, that integration could be anything. For outbound, I'm talking about, because the source of data is Workday and you want to send this data out of Workday. So in that case, you can build a real-time integration wherein, let's say your hire business process has, since you're already a functional consultant, so you would understand, let's say your hire business process are 10 steps and your 5th or 6th steps is marked as the completion step. So for the integration, we can edit the business process and we can do an integration step to it. So if I just go here, maybe open a sample process, I think the quickest one or the easy one would be change business title, I guess, because request. I think it's title change. Yeah, title change it is. So let's say you are sending the business title changes as and when the business title is entered and approved, completed for a person in Workday. So you have 4 steps in this business process. And out of these 4 steps, since nothing is marked as completion, then you know that the last step would be the completion step. So Usually we call our integration after the completion step only, because then only the integration would be sending the approved or entered data. So I'll edit my business process. I have an integration outbound which is built using a, let's say, a report, and that report is getting me the data of the employees. Now I can run that report on a 24-hour frequency. I can pass the parameters, or what I can do is I can also pass I can create a prompt in my report, and that prompt can be passed into the report from the business process itself. So let's say I have I'll add a step which will be called as E step, and then from here, where is my integration? So I can do an integration as type, and then I will click OK. So I want my fifth step to be fired as an integration step that would be fired. And then I'll get a configuration option here. And then I will just call my integration here, whatever my integration is. So if my integration has any launch parameters, then once I choose this integration, I will click OK. On the next screen, Workday will automatically pop me up with all the launch parameters, so they will not be lost. So in this case, if I have a launch parameter of worker, because in this case, the business process will trigger per worker. So the best case would be that I would want to apply the worker prompt so that whatever business process is running for this particular worker, the same worker can be passed into my worker report as a prompt, so that when the integration, when the business process gets completed and when integration gets triggered, the integration will be by default triggered for that particular employee for which this business process was triggered, so that my report will run each worker whenever the business process has been triggered for workers. So the process, it has a benefit as well, but it has, I would not say a problem, but your integration would be running as many times as your business process is getting triggered. If your business process is getting triggered 100 times a day for 100 employees, then the downstream system will be receiving this information 100 times. So the real-time data would be like that. So you will call your integration here. If there are any launch parameters, then you will update your launch parameters. You can pass it from your business process as well. And then you will click OK and call it. Let's say our integration was this EIB only, EIB out. So I have just called my integration. And since we don't have any launch parameters in our integration, we just have these file names and all. If you want to define them dynamically, you can define them dynamically here as well. So any launch parameters will not be lost. You will be popped up here to enter your launch parameters. If you want to make your file dynamic, you can just make it choose read equal to runtime and then do the next, so that your sequence generator will be used. So you can still do all those things, and then you click OK. Now your business process is configured. If I just go here, so here to making the integrations real time, here I'm kind of using an actual business process wherein I'm attaching my integration as a step. And as soon as my business process gets completed, my integration will be triggered on a real time, and whatever it is supposed to be doing, either delivering a file or whatever it is doing, it will do. So this is called the real-time integration. Let me just remove this. If some person is doing some business title change, we should not create problems for them. So in the real-time integrations, if somebody say, so real-time integrations will be worked upon like this. Now, the second case where the integration business process can be used is to make batch jobs or to call one integration after another. So in this case, we just don't use any existing business process definitions. What we do is we just create a skeleton definition for our integration, and then we just link one or more integrations from there. So let's say I have an EIB integration. Now, as soon as this EIB integration is completed, so I have a batch job to process, one integration after the another. So I don't want to schedule them, because if my first integration is taking time, I don't know when my integration would be completed. Sometimes it gets completed in 15 minutes, sometimes it takes half an hour, sometimes it takes even 1 hour. So I don't have a fixed time where my first integration would be completed. So I don't want to delay my second integration, or because they have an interdependency. Only when the first integration gets completed, some data happens or some data gets collected. Only then my second integration would make sense. So in these cases, you want your first integration to get completed, and then only your second or third integrations to get called upon. So what you can do in these cases, you go to your integration system, you choose this option, business process, create, copy, or link definition. So in these cases, we would just choose we don't choose any existing definition or something. We just choose none of the above, keep the effective date and whatever it is. We just click OK. Here I am just using the skeleton BP definition, which is not any BP. It is just the BP as a skeleton I'm using for this integration purpose. So now if you see, I have gone from the integration itself and clicked on the create BP definition or something. So by default, 2 steps are added in this BP. First is the initiation step, as any BP would have. Second step B is automatically added as service fire integration, because whenever I'm coming from a BP, from an integration and creating a skeleton definition, this integration, which is from where I'm going, it will by default be added as a step B to be fired using this business process. Now I want to call my second integration, which would be fired after this. So what I'll do, I'll just do a plus. I'll add the next step. And then from here, I'll choose integration to be fired, and I will click OK. If I have 2 more integrations to be fired upon, I can just create another plus, make it as a step D. So I'll just similar way that we configured in our business title change. I'll go here, enter my integration, any launch parameters, they will be taken care of. So if you have any fourth integration, you can again go here, add the fourth integration as well. So what it will do, in that case, you will only be scheduling or triggering your parent integration. So my parent integration was this. So now let's say I have a schedule of this integration, which is, let's say, 24 hours. So as soon as this integration will get triggered with the help of business process, in this definition, whatever integrations are being called upon here, they will automatically be triggered in the sequence. So once initiation step is default, so once my step B is triggered, which will be this integration, once this gets completed, my third step will get triggered, which will call the another integration which I will configure. And if I have a fourth integration as well, I can do that as well. So what it will do, it will create a sequence of a batch job with multiple integrations running one after the another without waiting for scheduling different times and so on. You can do this. This is the second way which you use the business process definitions, integration business process definitions, to make the batch jobs. So you can find it in your integrations business process tab. If you go here, once you have configured, so in the business process tab will get enabled here, and you will see if the integration has any business process associated with that. So once I have associated a business process, you cannot delete it. You have to inactivate the business process definition if you don't want it from the integration. So I'll just inactivate it with the same date. So I can no more see now. So this is how another way which you use your business processes. One more way which you understand, but it will be the same way, integration calling one after another. When we'll be discussing the core connector, we will call one integration core connector, and then after that we will call a document transformation integration, which is another integration, but it is just a placeholder for your XSLT. But they will be triggered using this business process definition only. So this is how you link your one or more definitions using the integration business processes. How much of the web service did we discuss? Did we discuss anything on the web services?
Yeah, we did.
We came here as well, right? The
I think,
Workdays.
yeah, you told this is from community, right? I think you
Correct,
just
correct,
said
correct.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
you just said like there is a web services page in
Yeah.
community you
So
can
this
refer
is
and
yeah, so this is your web service section divided into different categories, and you find your web services inbound, outbound.
yeah.
This is the
Mhm.
SOAP web services folder. So this is all about your web services where you find it. We already discussed in the inbound EIB, how does your web services inbound works, how your business process gets called. And other than creating the integrations, as I told, I think that sometimes there are requirements that you do not need to maintain integrations in Workday. So you just expose your web services, just like for an outbound, you can expose your get workers web service, which will share the workers data to the other system, wherein you would not create any integration. You would just expose your get workers web service, and then you will create the ISU security password for that. And then the other system will pull data from Workday using the web services, or maybe sometimes for inbound as well, you expose your inbound web services. If some other system is updating your email data, some other system is maintaining your business titles, so they can also make updates to Workday. In that case, you are not maintaining the integrations inside Workday. Other system might be creating the integrations. They are just leveraging our their web services architecture to update or get data from Workday. So this is also where your web services play a good role, wherein if something you're not being maintained, and this is quite a very handful practice. A lot of integration you will find in every other tenant which are working on this inbound outbound both combinations, because right now Workday kind of gives a lot of inbuilt connectors to them, wherein they can just they just want us to expose our web services, and they're just good.
Okay.
Working with web service testers. So this is a studio part. Unfortunately, I was not able to install studio in here, so I'm not able to show you. Otherwise, I would have just quickly shown you. So as you can, when you play around with the web services, Workday gives you a studio tester functionality, web service tester, where you can test your web services inside studio. You will give your tenant name, your credentials, and then you can create or define a request, and then you will trigger it in the tenant and you'll get a response. So that kind of thing you can do using the Workday web service tester, which is supported in studio. If you want to test a web service, how it behaves, what all the mandatory parameters, what is the request, what is the response I'm going to get. So you would need this web service tester for two things. One thing is that you are yourself building a studio integration where you would be using the inbound or outbound web service. So before creating the studio integration, you would want to know that how this web service behaves, what are the mandatory parameters, how the format will look like, what is the response structure, what is the request structure. So then you can use the web service tester, and then once your web service is complete ready, what all attributes you need, then you can create your studio integration and call the same web service in your studio to update a SOAP API call. Other things that you might need this web service tester would be that, let's say you are not building any integration inside the tenant, some other party is just you are exposing your web services inbound or outbound to them. So in that case also they would probably want a working version of a web service from you. They would not you can although share this with them, that okay, you can just go away, share this. So if they are good enough, they will just be okay with that, that you can just share the web service request to them or response, whatever they're asking. If they are good, they can do it, the transformation from their side. But if they're saying that we want a working version from you, then you would have to use your Workday Studio in the web service tester. You will call that web service. You will update the parameters. Let's say the web service is having a lot of fields, but probably in your case, they just want 5 to 6 fields, which are just mandatory, and couple more fields, which are non-mandatory in their web service, because this is what the web service part they're using and they don't want to be. And this happens very frequently, that you don't use a lot of the parts of the web service. In that case, you will remove every other section of the web service which is not required, create a light web service which is only required to update these and these things, and then only that part of request you will see, okay, this and this I have passed, it is working fine. Then you can once your web service tester works, you can just share that request to them, okay, that this is you can use in your system. So that also, that kind of web service tester will be beneficial for you. when you will be doing these kinds of integrations.